Hello, welcome to Steel City Business, the Sheffield business podcast. I'm James Marriott. I'll be your host as we explore the vibrant business scene of the glorious city of Sheffield. Now, in each episode, we meet someone from across the Steel City to learn more about them and, of course, their business. I run my own business. It's called Sound Media, and it's all about helping brands to amplify their voice through audio marketing. If you want to find out more, then head to the show notes. There's more information there. And this podcast is supported by the lovely people at The Curious, creative agency in the centre of Sheffield. Now, if you'd like to get in touch with us, maybe to suggest a guest or for any reason, then there are contact details in these show notes, or head to steelcity.business. Right, that's enough of that. Let's meet our guest.
Hello, I'm Emily Stancer. I'm a graphic designer and art director based in Sheffield.
Welcome to Steel City Business. Thank you very much for joining us. This is the first episode of this podcast where we've had a dog in the room with us. Do you want to introduce us to your dog as well?
This is the very chaotic spaniel, Maggie, but she's been very well behaved today so far, so we'll see.
So far, I in a way, I kind of want some barking in the background. I feel like it adds something to the experience. I love the description of, what was that, chaotic spaniel?
Yeah.
That's like a whole separate breed of dog. I love that.
She's a whirlwind.
Amazing. Tell me a little bit more then about what you do.
So I'm a graphic designer. I've worked in different agency settings over the years. I've been in the industry for 9 years now.
Right.
And I went freelance I'm going into my 7th month of freelancing.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, when people say what sort of graphic design do you do, I say like everything.
That was going to be my next question as well.
Just when you've worked in many different agencies, you end up dipping your toe into all sorts of different design.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, I feel like I can turn my hand to a lot of stuff, but the things that really make me passionate are like web design, branding and advertising, really.
Okay. Yeah, all right, that's interesting. It is a really wide spanning phrase now, isn't it? When we say graphic design, I think about when I first started working, a graphic designer would just make newspaper adverts and leaflets.
Yeah.
Even branding probably wasn't that kind of as big as it is now, but there's all kinds of stuff now, isn't there, where graphic design sort of comes into it. So it's such a kind of a catch-all word.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit then about the different agencies that you've worked at and the different kind of stuff that you've done.
I started off at a marketing agency, did anything from super boring leaflets to huge websites. Yeah, lots of social media stuff, email marketing. I feel like I learned a lot there. I spent 4 years there, started as a junior, ended as a senior and director.
Oh, wow.
And
right, okay.
Yeah, feel like I learned a lot. 4 years doesn't sound like that long, but
it's quite a long time though now at an agency, isn't it? People just move around.
People do jump a lot.
Yeah.
So learned a lot there. And then moved to a PR-led agency, which was very different.
Yeah.
I had to really adapt there because it was really different to marketing, to be honest. I did get to do a lot of landing page design there, which I really enjoyed.
Okay.
But yeah, lots of PR-led graphics and stuff like that, which was also a big learning curve as well. Then I went into advertising, which I really loved. The agency wasn't as busy though, so I struggled with that because the previous 2 agencies were so fast, and I learned to be really fast as well. Yeah. So then when the pace slowed down a little bit, I enjoyed it to start off with, but it then got a little, not boring, just...
I know what you mean.
I struggled quite a bit with... I was like, I don't really feel as needed, I guess. Right. But I did enjoy the different aspects of just purely advertising. And I got to art direct my first project there, which was violence against women and girls prevention, which is something I'm super passionate about. And to art direct that for the first time was really special. So I feel like each agency I've learned tons.
Yeah.
And they've all been different, which has been really good.
It's kind of cool. I mean, there's loads in there that I want to explore. I'm slightly distracted by the fact I can just see a dog tail wagging underneath the desk in the corner of my eye, which is amazing. But interesting there that, you know, those 3 roles specialising in different kind of elements of what you do, but essentially still on a kind of a design footing. But really interesting that you kind of made moves that led you to kind of, you know, try slightly different ways of doing things.
Yeah, I don't even think I did that on purpose. It's just like, that looks like an interesting role and looks like the right time to move. So I'll try that. And I think even though there were different areas of design that were needed, each one kind of complemented the other and helped me in the next role. Yeah. Which, was a positive.
That's interesting. I totally get what you mean as well with regards to kind of how fast-paced things are. So my first job was working at a weekly newspaper, so everything revolved around a fairly set deadline. I mean, it was set, but it was a little bit flexible. But it was like, you know, Thursday was deadline day, and that was it. Like, if it's not done, the paper comes out on Friday. So it's like, it was and then I moved into radio where the deadline was like every hour. Like, there's a news bulletin going out every hour, or there's this feature that needs to that plays out here. Like, those deadlines were just so much different. And then from that moving into I then went to work for a podcast agency, and then ultimately into running my own business where the deadlines are whatever you set them. Like, I could go a week and not do any work if I fancy it, and it's fine. Like, there's no one knocking on the door going, I want that thing, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And it's different, and some of it's great and some of it's not. It's weird, isn't it? Mm-hmm. How have you found then, I guess, pulling all that together, going freelance, how have you found that kind of experience?
I always say I mainly love it. Like 95% of me loves it. And then 5% every month has a little panic because I'm still getting used to just how it works and just learning to trust that everything does work out and that there's not going to be a month where not a single person wants to work with me, which is the 5% panic that runs through my head every now and then, at least once a month. But mainly, I absolutely love it and can't imagine going back to like a full-time role.
I can relate to you a lot on this, and these are things that I've said on the podcast before, because I in a lot of ways I class myself as a freelancer. Mm-hmm. I work for myself. The line between running a business, self-employment, sole trader, freelancer, it's very blurry. It's all just like you just work with whoever you want to work with. Yeah. I always think you're kind of like winning one contract away from feeling overwhelmed and being over capacity, but losing a client away from disaster. Yeah. And you never quite, that seesaw is never quite balanced. Yeah. And as soon as you think, oh, everything's perfect, the day after the phone rings and it's like everything gets thrown into chaos again. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that ever stops, by the way. I don't,
Yeah, like, I think if you let yourself think about it too much, then you could be not enjoying life that much. So I give myself very little amount of time to allow myself to think about the negatives. Yeah. And I'm like, that's not helpful. Let's move on. Let's put a post on LinkedIn and see what we can get.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. What was your kind of thought process then in terms of making that decision to go freelance?
Well, it was kind of, I don't want to say made for me, but basically, as I said, the last agency just was not busy enough. I got back from a 2-week trip in Vietnam, and the day I got back and opened my laptop, I'd lost my job. Oh. There was just not enough work. So after a slight panic, I'd wanted to go freelance for over a year. There we go, there's some dog noises for you. I'd wanted to go freelance for well over a year. And it's always been in the back of my mind since I even graduated. It feels like it was the dream to not have a boss. So it wasn't like a massive shock. So when I'd gathered my thoughts and had a little panic about losing my job, 4 weeks before Christmas.
Blimey, right.
Yeah, I was like, well, I'm going freelance. I don't want a job. I don't want a boss. And I'm quite glad, to be honest. At the time, everyone was like, you'll be really happy it happened in the future. I was like, yeah, I know I will. But right now, it feels a bit crap. But yeah, I dusted myself off and I've not needed to get a job since. So yeah, I had my website pretty much ready to go because I was putting the work in to get enough freelance clients to then just quit my job.
Right.
So at least the wheels were in motion and it wasn't a massive, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
I knew what I was going to do. It was the push at the time of year that I didn't need or want, but in the end, I'm happy it happened and here I am.
Has it played out how you thought it would do? Or is is that the right question? Is it what you thought it would be?
It's better than what I thought it'd be. I
Wow.
thought I'd be more stressed.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm a natural worrier. So I thought every day I'd be like, oh, where's the work going to come from?
Yeah.
Like, I just thought, I've never done it before. Am I going to be self-disciplined enough?
Right.
But it turns out that when you have to pay your bills every month, you just do it. Like, it works out. So it's so much better than I thought it'd be. It's been a pleasant surprise, really. And yeah, I won't go back.
There's nothing that kind of makes you work really hard as, not that any of us would not work hard, but when you genuinely get the rewards, like you're not doing it thinking, oh, bloody boss is always asking me to do this extra stuff and I never get anything back in return and they never even say thank you. It's all on you, isn't it? It's like, it's kind of the best thing and the worst thing about it as well.
Yeah.
It's so complex, isn't it?
It's what you put in, you really do get out.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes when you're employed, you could give your employer the whole world and sometimes you don't get a pat on the back, sometimes you do.
Yeah.
So it's nice that all that energy that you put out, pretty much you get back because it's your baby, it's your business.
What I found really strange as well is that the relationship with clients, and maybe I've just been lucky, but the relationship with clients is such a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm paying you money and you will do this thing that I ask you to do.
I've not had
it's
a single bad client.
It's very much a collaboration, a partnership if you get the right clients. And it's just so positive and nice and friendly. And, you work really hard for them and they say thank you. And as you pay my invoices, you don't need to thank me as well.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine. Almost more positive than kind of like a traditional work environment. I've found it, which is kind of weird because you're also generally earning more money, aren't you?
Yeah, it's odd because in agencies I was so used to this client is really grumpy at the minute, we need to win them back round, or this client's annoyed that they've waited a week longer for this project or whatever. It felt like there was always a client that had an issue and we had to like turn things around. And yeah, like you said, I don't think I've had, touch wood, a single client that I've had cross words with. Like, everyone's just been really pleasant and, well, they find you, they like your work, they want to work with you, they want to give you their money. So it's already starting off well, and then they're happy with what you do, and then everyone's happy. And yeah, it's just a much more positive experience, I think.
It's like a cycle of positivity.
Yeah.
It's like there's no one in that cycle that isn't happy.
Yeah.
And it's kind of magical, isn't it? Like, you get up every day and you're just working with really nice people all the time. And I love it. It sounds like you love it as well. I had this weird moment when a few months in where I just suddenly realised, I'm like, this is what I was always meant to do.
Yeah.
Why did I waste 20 years of my career working? And I'm like, that's nonsense, isn't it? Because it had to happen the way that it happened. And I don't know if you feel the same as when you look back about, kind of arriving at that point where it was just the natural thing for you to do was to make that step. And I think if I had have done it earlier, maybe I wouldn't have been ready, and I wouldn't have appreciated those healthy relationships with clients as much as I do from some of those, harder times when you're in a job and you get up in the morning like, oh, I don't know if I can be, I don't really want to do this today. And those moments that all lead you to that point of where the stars align and it's just meant to happen. Yeah,
definitely. It's funny because the majority of my friends are self-employed and have been for a long time. And my God, have they been nagging me to go self-employed for years now? And I keep, even though it's been like 6 or 7 months now, I keep winding them up by saying, oh, why didn't you tell me to do this sooner? This is like what I'm made to do. But I agree with, I think this was the right time for me.
Yeah.
And I think I had to go through certain experiences at certain agencies to grow and be a better designer. And then I think there's no like, what's the word, like coincidence that I went self-employed when I was 30. I think it's just a good age to be quietly confident in what you do. You know yourself personally a lot more. I think maybe if I went freelance when I was in my 20s, it might have all just gone wildly wrong.
Fair point, isn't it? It's like if you want to go out on like Wednesday night and Thursday night and stuff, and just roll into work and think, well, I'll just keep my head.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
You're right. You do have to be in a certain place. Have you now got friends who aren't self-employed that you've now taken the role of nagging them about it?
Yeah, from like day one, because once I'd got over the loss of my job, I was like, oh, this is great. And so now I'm like, when are you quitting your job? Just go freelance. Like, I promise you that you'll be happier. And I just think that there's way more positives.
Yeah.
I've said previously and recently, annual leave and pension schemes and stuff like that really do not amount to the like happiness that I get being freelance. Yeah. It's like you can keep all the perks. I'd rather be where I am right now. And it's different kinds of perks as well. This is turning into a podcast just talking about the pros and cons of self-employment, isn't it? But we will move on to other stuff. But like, I was trying to think the other week about something that happened. Oh, it was my mum needed some shopping. And I looked at my calendar and thought, do you know what? I can clear my calendar this afternoon. I'll come and take you shopping, and you can just drop things, and that's, you know, if in employment, if something happens, if one of your family members is involved in an accident and you need to go, obviously you can go. But when you're self-employed, it can be something relatively minor that might be quite big in your head. Like, I really like the fact that I could drop what I was doing and take my mum shopping. Definitely. And I leave her and she's got a big smile on her face and a full fridge and a full freezer. Yeah. And go home thinking like, I'm really pleased that I was able to do that. Yeah. And, you know, that's a small thing, but there's bigger things like when you need to book the car in for a service, when you need to do this, you need to do that. Then you don't need to ask someone's permission.
It's just so much easier, isn't it?
Even if you've got the most lenient boss in the world, having to say, oh, please, can I take my car for its MOT feels... a bit gross sometimes.
Absolutely.
And like even this morning, I've got work to do, but I'm confident in the fact that I will get it done and to a high quality. But this morning, my friend really needed someone to sit with her and go for a walk. So we took the dog out at 9:15, which is after a 9-to-5 job would have started. Yeah. And we took the dog for a walk and we cheered her up. And being able to do something like that seems so minor, but I think that's really big and really positive. And if we were all self-employed, we could all help each other out.
It's like we're inadvertently starting a campaign here, aren't we? Which is fine. What do you, when you think about the future then, how does that look in your mind? Do you think further ahead than just like the immediacy? And I ask that, I'll relate it to myself in terms of, I think, can I imagine still being like, I don't know, late 50s, moving into my 60s, still doing what I'm doing now? Would that work? Is freelancing a bit of a younger person's game? Is it possible to do it like until a retirement age? Do I want to retire early? Is that what it's about? And I struggle to think beyond I'm just enjoying it right now, and hopefully, you know, business gets a little bit better every year, and then there's a little bit of an upward curve. Yeah. And I don't worry too much about it beyond that. What are your thoughts when you think about that longer term picture?
I'm quite similar. In my mind, I'd like to just each year become more and more like financially stable. So then the business just feels more like it's just kind of running itself and I'm just doing the work. And there's not that panic that I talk about now, like 7 months in. Hopefully, like, when we're talking about years down the line, it's just something that ticks over nicely and I'm more financially stable than when I've just like lost a job and took the plunge. But also exploring all the other bits of my life that I do that are thanks to going freelance, because I've also recently taken on Creative Morning Sheffield, so I'm the host of that now. So being able to pour my time into other things that aren't just design is really healthy for me, I think, especially when it's other creative things like Creative Mornings. I always have my fingers in lots of pies. So I just see myself still having my fingers in lots of pies. They're just more and more successful pies.
Yeah.
And
that's a great way of thinking about it. Let's aim for more successful pies.
Yeah.
I think that's a great takeaway. You mentioned in passing a little while ago about a project that you were involved in that you were really passionate about. Tell us a little bit more then about kind of projects, things that you've been involved in that you're really proud of.
So that one was for West Yorkshire, and it was a campaign to reduce violence against women and girls.
Right.
And I'm a true, passionate feminist. I used to run another event that I'll not even get into. So when I got asked, for my input as an art director in that, I was really pleased. Yeah, I put some ideas forward and I was really buzzing because the client chose my idea.
Brilliant.
And that's the first time that I've actually art directed. And then on the day I was my boss and the director was directing the shoot, but because it was my idea, he was asking for my opinions and I felt really valued. And the end result was just amazing. The budget was small, as they are a lot of the time. And the stuff that we did with the budget was just, I'm really proud of. And the results were amazing. It went viral on TikTok and got loads and loads of views and really positive comments. It's interesting, the different reactions you get on different platforms. Twitter and Facebook was full of angry men, and TikTok was full of women saying, "Oh my God, I resonate with this so much, and thank you, and this is amazing." So yeah, that felt like a really big accomplishment and something that I'm really passionate about, because like I say, sometimes you're making a pamphlet for an oven and that's fine, it pays the bills, happy to help. But when it's something that you're super passionate about, I went home with a grin on my face after filming for I think it was 12 hours, and then seeing it all come together. It was just really special.
That's awesome. That's really, really good. Is there anything else that you've been involved in that you want to tell us about?
I guess there's some stuff that's not feminism, but when I worked at another agency, I worked on just lots of big household brands, which I feel like is the goal when you're a baby designer and you've just come out of university. And I think sometimes you don't even appreciate it or even think about it because you're busy and you're just doing the work. And it wasn't until I came out of that job and I was looking at my portfolio and I was like, you've got huge household names in your portfolio. That's amazing. So yeah, working with people like Mark Hill, House of Fraser, huge brands, feels like a really big accomplishment. And past Emily would be wow, really? And current Emily's yeah, we just did that. So sometimes I think it's really important to look back and give yourself a pat on the back.
Yeah. What's your kind of thoughts in terms of how the digital world is at the moment? And I guess specifically kind of the business world in Sheffield, how things are right now?
Do you know what? I don't even know if I know enough about it to comment. Sometimes I feel like I'm in a bit of just my own bubble and a very close circle of friends that are self-employed. But I did I'm in a choir as well because I do a million things at once. And we did some stuff for the podcast festival last weekend.
Yep.
And that felt really exciting. And it just feels like Sheffield's this quiet city that doesn't really scream about all the stuff it does, which I think we're quite humble.
Yeah.
Because I think people, when they think about creative cities, they think of London, Manchester, Leeds. So I think it's quite nice that we all just crack on and are pretty humble, but we've got really exciting stuff happening. We have tram lines, we have crossed wires.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like being in Sheffield.
And I think it's all right for us to be different. And it's not something that we should feel ashamed of. It's something that we should embrace.
Yeah.
So the idea of, the stuff that works in Sheffield, that happens in Sheffield, that if you picked it up and put it in Leeds or Manchester, it wouldn't work. And people would be like, what's this? Mm. You mentioned the weekend before was Sheffield Food Festival.
Yeah.
And that's, it's big, But in a way, it's kind of low key. It doesn't make a big fuss about itself. It's not about having 8 different stages with different entertainment. It's about friends coming together. Everyone goes off, buys food from wherever they want, and sit around and chat.
Yeah.
And you might meet some new people. You might try some new food. It's it's relatively down to earth.
Yeah.
And that feels very Sheffield. I don't think that you could pick that up and just move it to Leeds and it worked there. Leeds would expect something different, not better, different.
Yeah.
And
Dockfest. Yeah. I feel like we've got loads of stuff.
And we've got to embrace that and accept the fact that it shouldn't be about trying to compete with other cities. It should be about recognising why that Sheffield does have a slightly different beat, and actually let's make the most of that. Let's do more things like tram lines. I think is unlike other festivals and so many other stuff that happens in Sheffield that's a bit different. And the business world is a bit like that as well. And interesting, you kind of say that you're almost in this sort of little bubble of your own, and we have that, don't we? Within the business community is the stuff going on. So I'm probably more involved. As we've been chatting, I've been thinking it's strange that our paths haven't crossed, because we're probably like right on the periphery of similar kind of groups and stuff like that. For the benefit of listeners, this is the first time that we've met, but I kind of think I'm probably milling around in a slightly, I guess, more sort of pure business environment because it's businesses that I sell to quite specifically. So I'm probably more involved in that world and maybe a little bit less in the sort of the freelance world. And I'm thinking I should probably try and get more involved in the freelance world. So I think
everyone's super friendly though. Like Ken Wright, who recommended me for this podcast.
Yep.
I'm so grateful to him because I worked for Ken Wright for a period of time, and he has recommended me for many like freelance roles that people have just trusted his word of mouth. They've not even asked to see my portfolio. They've just trusted Ken Wright's word and booked me for a job. And I feel like Sheffield's got lots of friendly people like Ken Wright, where they're saying your name in a room full of people that could really like benefit you. And I think there's not much competitiveness. Like the amount of people that I know vaguely through like working with them or whatever that tag me in LinkedIn comments where people are looking for certain designers, and they're like, I don't know if you even do this, Emily, but Emily's great, try Emily. And I feel like there's a real lovely community where we all just recommend each other and help each other out, and there's no ego. It's just, I
love hearing that. I love hearing that. And I think that's really, really true. And I don't know if you get that friendliness elsewhere. Like the bigger a place gets, is it inevitable that it loses a bit of that warmth and a little bit of that community? I don't know.
Competitiveness is probably bigger because I do think that there's more agencies in like Manchester and Leeds. So then the competitiveness will just be like undeniable. I think we're just a quietly confident city.
It's a shame we've not got Stephen Ken Wright with us right now.
I know.
I think he'd have loads to say on this. So if he ever listened to this episode, he'd probably be screaming at his headphones as we talk about this. I'm keen to talk about kind of non-work stuff because there's already been kind of 2 or 3 things that you've kind of touched on and mentioned in passing that I'm like, I want to talk about that. So creative mornings, want to talk about that. Being in a choir, I'd love to hear more about that. And we've got this whole subject of powerlifting that we need to get onto because you're also involved in that. I don't know where to start. Let's talk about creative mornings because that's probably the one that's most related to work, I guess.
Yeah,
so tell us a little bit more about that.
So I'd only been to a couple in the past because work kind of limited me on, if I was super busy at work, I was like, I can't really give that morning up. But then I worked with Emma, who ran Creative Morning Sheffield, and it was a bit too much work-wise because she's very busy in work life as well. So she stepped down, and it's just after I'd gone freelance, and my friend Ash was on Emma's team at Creative Mornings, and he told me, and I was like, oh, maybe I should do it. And he was like, yeah, please do, because he was like, I'd love to still work with Creative Mornings and be on the team. And he was like, you'd be perfect for it. So it just felt like once I'd taken that leap going freelance, opportunities like that were coming to me, and it didn't seem like a coincidence. It was just like, okay, this is meant for me. So I applied for that. I got the role, and it's just super fun meeting new people every month, booking a new speaker every month. I'm trying to make it as diverse as possible and give a platform to people from marginalised areas of society that wouldn't normally get the platform or the voice. So yeah, it's been really nice. And I've only done 2 mornings because it's monthly. We've got another one this month. But yeah, it's been great. And yeah, it ties in with my work as well. But it feels like a nice separate thing to work.
Yeah. For anyone that doesn't know much about that then, so who's that open to? Who do you want to kind of get involved in that?
Absolutely everybody. It's quite literally for anyone. It originated in New York and it's now a global thing. So there's hosts in many cities all over the globe. And we get a theme every single month that's set out at the beginning of the year. And your talk, the person you book to speak can be as loosely connected to the theme as you like, really. Right. You can use your creative license. So my first month was spicy, and I booked someone who goes under the term of a pleasure priestess, and she's a sex worker. I can't even describe. She does 1 billion different things, offers so many different services, workshops, works with couples to help them with their sex lives. She does everything. She is a very knowledgeable woman who's done, I think, about 1,000 different degrees. Really intelligent woman. And we sold that one out. I think people were so intrigued, like, oh, the new host of Creative Mornings has booked a sex worker. What on earth's happening?
I'm really gutted that I missed this.
And you can catch up on it online. There's a YouTube video. We film each one. The theme was vibrant, and I booked a company called Quiplash, who are queer crip access to arts. So they come into companies, or they generally will help anyone make their business or just their lives more accessible. It's run by 2 queer, neurodivergent, non-binary people who are also disabled. And yeah, that was really eye-opening and just a pleasure to have them. And yeah, people ask really, really good questions every time. There's always a Q&A at the end of their talk. And yeah, I'm just trying to bring in different pockets of people that you might not stumble across in your everyday life.
I'm really intrigued. I think I probably had an idea in my mind about what it would called Creative Mornings, what I thought that would be, and then how you talked about it, I'm like, that's not at all what I thought it was going to be. So that's really interesting.
That's kind of me that's put my little spin on it, I guess, because they're really supportive in however you want to run it, you run it. You don't have to get your speakers confirmed by New York or anything. They're just you just run away with it. And I was just very adamant that, because it's called Creative Mornings and you kind of have an idea of what to expect, I didn't want it to be that. I didn't want to have a straight white man that's a creative director at an amazing, agency come and talk. There might be room for that at some point, but I feel like we've heard enough of that. And here's a platform for people that you've probably never even come across in your life. I want to get people thinking and to open people's minds a bit more, because people might not have even thought about how accessible their work is or just their general life. Because as Quiplash said the other Friday, we're all ableist in our own ways, even if we don't want to be or realise we are. So yeah, just opening people's minds, that's the aim, including my own. I want to learn as well.
Yeah. So. Brilliant. Okay, I love that. That just sounds fantastic. I'm not, purely because of time, I'm not going to ask you about the choir, but I do want to ask you about...
F Girls Live.
Yeah. So this was probably at the very beginning of when we first started talking. This was the thing that kind of caught my eye. And I guess because we've had some guests on the podcast recently where we've talked about fitness and exercise and just general sort of well-being that you wouldn't necessarily associate with a business podcast, but has just very naturally been a subject of conversation, partly because I think we do a better job now than we ever have done in terms of taking well-being seriously, in terms of how it affects us in every element of our life. Probably still not well enough, but much better. And also just the fact that the work world is different to how it used to be, and how people spend time together and socialise together, whether they are working together or just friends or whatever. That's all quite blurry, and it doesn't work the way that it did once upon a time. Yeah, I was kind of intrigued by this thing that you do. Kind of explain, tell me more.
It's kind of become a monster very quickly, a monster that I'm glad to have. Me and my best friend Gina are avid gym goers, and we have been since kind of the pandemic time. We used to work out on Zoom together to encourage each other, and then once you're allowed in gyms, we went to the gym. And then we found the world of powerlifting, which is very, very male dominated and can be quite intimidating at the start until you realise that powerlifting men are all cuddly teddy bears that just look very scary.
For anyone who doesn't, there's a powerlift. So I think, like, I know what weightlifting is. Is powerlifting different, or is it just that but kind of ramped up a level?
Well, powerlifting is 3 main movements. It's SBD, which is squat, bench and deadlift. They're the only 3 movements you do. Obviously, when you're training, you don't just do those things. You do accessories that help improve those 3 movements.
Right.
So I only started taking that seriously in January. I think Gina was taking it a bit more seriously than me before that. We actually went to something called Gym Girls Locker Room, which isn't powerlifting based, it's just girls getting in the gym. And that's run by an influencer called Sid Grows. And we went to that event. It was a free event in Leeds, and it was great. It was a room full of girls trying out new things in the gym, and it was really positive. And on the drive on the way home, we were like, I'd love to do stuff like that all the time, but there's absolutely nothing in Sheffield for that. And me and Gina are people that when we see there's something that we want and nobody's doing it, we just then decide to do it.
Love that.
Which can be exhausting. We're always like, oh, can't other people like try doing something? So we were driving back, and I was like, I want to run something like that, because Gym Girls Locker Room is also like not a regular thing. They kind of move around the country on a tour. It's not like in Leeds every month you get to do that. So I was like, let's just do it. I want to do it. Even if 2 people turn up, I think we need to create that space. And then the very next day, I'd got a deck together for Gina with a logo and social media assets and pitched it to her. Brilliant. And was like, I think it should be called Sheff Girls Lift. I think it should look like this. I gave her different logo options, and she was like, oh, wow, you really thought about this over the past 24 hours. I was like, yep, I'm ready to go. And then the gym that we go to is an indie gym that looks really scary, but is not. It's just in like a warehouse. And we love it so much more than we ever loved like commercial gyms.
Right.
We've got a really supportive guy, John, who owns it. He has always asked us since we joined, like, because we're some of the only women that goes to that gym. He's always asked us how to make it more friendly for women, how, like, if there's anything he can do. And he's always just open to advice that we give him. We're like, you could do this better. And he'll take it on the chin. And then he'd seen that we'd been to that Gym Girls Locker Room thing. And he was like, oh, if you want to do something like that, like, you can have the gym, and people that come can have like a discount on like the day pass. And we were like, oh, it's funny you should say that. We've already thought about something. It's called Sheff Girls Lift. We're ready to go. And he was like, yep, just tell me when you want the gym. So that's really kind. He closes the gym completely, even though it's a 24-hour gym. He tells members not to go in the times that we're running the event. So yeah, we put the first event on and it sold out in 48 hours. And we were like, oh, wow. Because I said, I think we'll get like a couple of friends that come that feel sorry for us, and it'll just be like us. But it just shows that it was so needed and wanted. There's women that come that are seasoned powerlifters that go to competitions and podium. There's women that have never even been in a gym before, that have never picked up a weight before. And it is the most wholesome 2 hours that you could imagine. People come on their own and make brand new friends and do things that they never even imagined they could do. And seeing that it just makes it so worthwhile. We've sold out 3 events now. We've got a new event that goes on sale for July this Friday. And it just seems to be a sellout every time. People on the internet like, has anyone got a Sheff Girls Lift ticket that I can buy off them because I want to go?
You're a little black market trading in tickets. That's amazing. Why do you think that is then? Why do you think it's so popular? Is it just a very undercatered world?
I think we've underestimated how much of a safe space we've created in our event, because me and G are very confident women and very confident in a gym setting, but at the likes of the last commercial gym that we went to, that was so intimidating. I can't even describe. Even after years of going, I could have like a bad day and like a man could really like upset me at the gym and just intimidate me. If that's me, someone who's very confident in a gym setting, then I can't imagine how nerve-wracking it must be for women who want to start going to the gym and want to start lifting weights, but walk in and are absolutely just intimidated and walk straight back out again. Because sometimes I did that in commercial gyms. I walked in, was like, nope, everyone's a bit too much today, I'm walking back out again. And I think that sometimes the gym is not a very nice environment and isn't a safe space, and like people can, I don't know, correct your form without you asking, or make you feel a bit stupid, for instance. So I think us having a room full of women of all different capabilities and experience levels just welcomes this atmosphere that's just so wholesome. Like, I put a board up every event that's like, what does Sheff Girls Lift mean to you? And some of the comments on it are just like bring me to tears, because people really value the space and the time, and just being able to, I don't know, lift up the bar on its own and not be judged. And everyone encourages each other. People getting like new PBs and everyone's like screaming at them to get the bar up. I think it was just really needed, clearly. And there was, like we suspected, a huge gap in the market, because we wanted that space. So we were like, well, let's create it and see if people come. And
good on you.
Yeah, it turns out people love it.
It's true, isn't it, about, you think about gyms and like the weights area tends to be a little bit separate, doesn't it? It's kind of like offered its own little sort of area.
Yeah, I used to call it the men's section. It
is very male dominated, but it's also a very particular kind of men as well. Like, even when I went to the gym, I would feel a little bit, and I don't hammer the gym anymore. This is an audio podcast, but if you could see me, I'm not, certainly not bulky or anything. It took a long time before I'd have the confidence to go there, because you also feel like if you're not lifting the same level of weights as other people there, everyone's looking at you, and and it's like, but you are at the level that you're at, and that's fine. We should be cool with that. So brilliant that you're doing something so positive there. I'm aware we're running out of time as well. I love asking people at the end of podcast episodes about if there's anything that they're really passionate about that maybe they've not really talked about before. I know we've talked about a lot of stuff that you're passionate about, but is there anything that's not come up that you'd really like to highlight and talk about? Yeah,
definitely. So as someone who talks about women's rights a lot and is very passionate about that, I am very aware that I don't often talk about something else that I'm passionate about, which is men's mental health. It's a really hard topic because how do I even put it? I've been through something really tough because of men's bad mental health. I'm very aware that I want to do something super positive, and it's still just things in my brain at the moment, and I've not managed to get it out there yet. But yeah, I just want to kind of state that feminism and men's mental health don't have to be like one or the other, exclusive. Like you can champion both things. I really, really care about men's mental health. People need to talk more and be kind, because you never, ever know what someone's going through, and always just check in on people.
Well said. And that's really interesting. I'm aware I'm saying that this as a kind of a midlife white male, but one I kind of feel sort of feeds the other in terms of the fact that some of the issues that feminism has to exist to address are probably caused by men who've got problems going on.
Yeah.
You've got me thinking now. That's interesting. Brill. If anyone wants to find out more about, I guess I'm thinking more about the powerlifting, but anything that you've talked about, if people want to find out more about that stuff, what's the best way for them to do that?
God, I do too much stuff, don't I? So
it's going to be like a list of websites.
Business-wise, emilystancer.co.uk. I recently found out that if you type in .com, something really bad is on that website. So make sure it's emilystancer.co.uk. Otherwise,
when this episode goes out, we've just caused an internet surge of people now doing that to see what the really bad thing.
Well, you'll want to delete your history.
Oh wow,
it's bad. I only worked it out the other day and was like, oh, that's not very good, is it? And then Sheff Girls Lift is on Instagram, just literally Sheff Girls Lift.
Well, thank you for your time. Been a real pleasure to chat.
Thank you for having me.
So much stuff in there. I feel like I need to go back and listen back to this episode straight away. Thank you ever so much. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. And I hope the rest of your freelance life is as wonderful as it has been so far.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks very much for listening to this episode of Steel City Business. It's been really lovely to have you with us. Now, you know how this works. If you've enjoyed it and you want in on future episodes, then just follow us on your podcast app or on YouTube. The show is very active on LinkedIn. Just search for Steel City Business and come and connect with me as well while you're at it. Big thank you to The Curious for helping make this podcast happen. There's loads more about the show at steelcity.business, and you can get in touch by emailing james@steelcity.business. And hey, if you're in business in Sheffield, then, well, why not put yourself forward as a guest for a future episode? And of course, we're always open for a good chat about how audio marketing could work for your brand. Until next time, thanks for listening.